Well, hi everyone. It's really great to be here again. I've really enjoyed the presentations we've had today, and it's great to see some different strategies. We know with this pest, with this problem, that there's not one perfect solution, right? And so it's really great to see that there's, depending on the situation, there's different strategies that we can use and that we can work together to make sure that we can control this together. So today I'd like to do is talk a little bit about Habitat Aqua, our tool in the toolbox. We've heard about a bunch of tools today, drowning one by Wes, and we've heard about burning and cutting and all that sort of stuff. And we also heard about herbicide, right? So this tool in the toolbox that we can use. And what my real goal is today is to make comfortable with using this product, as well as goals that are going on with this product, but also how safe it is and how effective. Okay, so I do want to go into a little bit of the history of Habitat Aqua. I want to talk a little bit about why it's important to control when we do with Habitat Aqua, and why this product works so well, and then how does this product fit into your frag strategy, and then I want to get into the nuts, how to use Habitat Aqua and the watch outs around it. So without further ado, it's important for me to that BSF has been in the frag business and has been concerned with the sustainability of frag since the very beginning, or since a long time anyways. We are one of the first ones to frag on the labels with Arsenal Powerline, and then we've been working, as Becky was talking about, for a long time with Habitat Aqua to have water or adjacent to water solution. And so it's really exciting that we now have both. And if you ever do look at Habitat Aqua, you're going to see a really nice treatment, right? It's going to work really well on Phragmites. There's two pack sizes, right? You're going to have similar use rates. You're on Habitat Aqua, you're going to have 3 liters to 4.68 liters, and you're going to so a case is going to be able to treat up to six hectares. I would suggest, and maybe we'll get into this a little bit, but if you have really dense Phragmites, you probably go to the high rate, and if you're just kind of retreating, you go in at the. As mentioned before, you do need a surfactant, and it's AquaSurf here in Canada. It's important to use. There's only one surfactant on the label. It's important to use that surfactant to help get the uptake on the plant. As we'll see, they're really dense. Between the stolons and the rhizomes, that product has to penetrate into the plant to work. And so it's important to use a surfactant. Okay. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking a little bit about BSF and sustainability, right? So BSF has made a priority to have and put forward sustainable products, and this is one of them. I'm going to talk about a few ways that it's been used, especially in the US. We're going to build our database here in Canada, but I can talk about it in the US. But not only in this situation, but also in agriculture and in our paints and plastics and all those other sorts of areas. We are a forerunner in trying to bring out sustainable solutions, and this is just one of them. And I just wanted to show you just a couple of minutes on how much research goes into putting forward a product like this. You can see that to get to market, at least 10 years. And that's, in the case of Habitat Aqua, that's a small number. We know it was much, much longer. But you can see how we've been spending, you have to spend money on research and biology. And then not knowing a ton about drugs, I would say that we do more research than on a drug that you take. Because not only with a drug do you test the efficacy and how it works in your body, but with with a chemical like ours, you also have to test how it works in the environment. And so we've spent a lot of time making sure that a product like this works well in the environment. And then our Health Canada looks at all that data and makes sure that it still works, right? And that's what they wanted to take. That's what they took so long for, to register Habitat Aqua. And yes, it was frustrating because it took so long, but in a way it should make us happy as Canadians that we're making sure that there's a safe product that is going adjacent and over water. Okay. So BSF we get involved in a lot of vegetation management for different areas, whether it be forestry, whether it be right of ways, all those sorts of things. And it's really important that you follow some important principles. We want to restore and improve plant and animal and human habitats, right? So we're trying to get it back to the way it was, and we're trying to make a positive environmental change. We're also trying to protect the habitat of a threatened and endangered species so that they can survive and thrive in the. And herbicide is just another technique. We would never say that we should only use herbicide, but it is one of the better ways in terms of ease. And lots of times it's a lot less effort and less costly than some of the other options that we have. But we want to use them responsibly and use the appropriate products for the situation that you have. Okay. I'm just going to run through real quick a few examples of how we use Habitat and some of our other products to help. Chesapeake Bay for Phragmites. We helped with the red woodpecker habitat in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Japanese stilt grass in the Great Smoky Mountains. We have wood storks with frog bit control in South Carolina, Vitex control in South Carolina for the loggerhead turtles, Melaleuca control in the Everglades, and all these sort of things we were an important part of with our products. So I just wanted to let people know that other spots in the world are using products like Habitat in environments to get some results. And then more specifically on Phragmites, we just heard from Wes about the Michigan area, and we have done significant work there. And this is in the St. John's Marsh. And you can kind of see 3 years after treatment how Habitat Aqua stems are still nice and brown over on the left-hand side. And that's at the high rate range, but you can see the brown of that Phragmites. The other thing that I love to see is on the left-hand side there, you got some pollinators coming back right where it was treated as well. So some really good results 3 years after treatment, and you kind of see on the right-hand side some other results with glyphosate, which maybe didn't get such a good result. We also have done a bunch of stuff on the in the Cape Hatteras at the U.S. National Park Service at Bodie Island, the lighthouse there. The guy on the left actually did this presentation and was good enough to send me the slides for it. He's since retired, which I'm really sad about, but he leaves a great legacy because he really helped kind of set up the work with Habitat at this project. And you can just kind of see the size of the application area. You can see its proximity to where people are and where they use it on the boardwalk. You can see that nice straight line down the left-hand side, how that arsenal and Habitat in this case hasn't moved. You can see on the bottom left some trees where they basically treated right up to the tree line and didn't hurt those trees around it. So there's a lot of nice things that we can take away from the pictures here. And again, similar idea, just more of a close-up. Wanted to show how close they were getting to some of that vegetation they wanted to keep. you can see the brown, and then you can kind of see the trees right up next to it. You can kind of see the nice line at the front where they treated right up to. And you can kind of see how they were selective with it and left out where there was no frag, they didn't spray. And then lastly, this one I liked because it just shows that the vegetation is starting to come back. And yes, I think you do see some frags starting to get. I think we get about 95, 97% of the Phragmites, but there is going to be some retreatment for sure. But a lot of things are brown in that picture, but you can also see some nice stuff coming back. Okay, let's talk a little bit about frag and how it works. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that because everybody on this call is pretty much experts, but it is a perennial reed grass and it does grow large, right? And it can grow very thickly. And it has a really long growing season. It starts in April and May. It elongates in June, July. It flowers in August, September, and from October on. And so why that's going to be important is because we need to know the physiology of the plant to know when to treat it, right? And you can kind of see from in that flowering time, it's putting out energy that flower, but after the flower goes, it's starting to bring that energy back to the rhizome. So the optimal application time for Phragmites is in that August or October-ish, depending on where you are, before it goes dormant, that time frame there. And it's important because it's bringing that energy back down to the roots, and it'd be really great to bring them as a peer down to the roots with it to get some. See on the right-hand side, we saw this picture earlier today, but you can see the amount of plant mass that Imazapure has to get into and control in order to kill Phragmites. And so it's important to do it at the right time or you're not going to get a good catch, okay? You can also see that it's reproduced with seeds, stolons, which are the connectors, and the rhizomes, which are the roots, right? The rhizomes are the majority of the biomass, and you can kind of see the size of all that. Okay, and it outcompetes other plants for sunlight, water, and nutrients. So I didn't hear it too much today, but of course we know the rhizomes do send out a little bit of a poison and kill the plant next to it so that it can spread and compete in that spot too. Okay, how does habitat fit in your frag strategy? Well, it's got a build here. Through the build. So here you can kind of see there's lots of different ways that we can control frag, and they're all important to use. We want to use them in the right situations. We wouldn't want to use all the time, right? It's not always the best method, especially when it's close to desirables like trees. And so on the bottom there, you have the dry land area or control methods, the cultural control, the mulching, the prescribed burning, and then the gray stuff that can be either land or over the water, selective cutting and spading and drowning, like we talked about, herbicide, and then in the flooding, that's the one that can only be used in the water, of course. But not all of them are going to be effective in every situation, right? So we want to make sure that this is, as I say, habitat and arsenal are only tools in the toolbox, right? Let's have the strategy for the area and then use the appropriate methods for completing that strategy. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Habitat Aqua. Okay, so Habitat Aqua is the active ingredient is Imazapure. I think we should all be happy that it is a restricted label, right? So Habitat Aqua, one of two products that can be used over the water in Canada. And I think it's important that we do be careful with our water, right? We don't want to be putting a lot of stuff in there unless it's justified, because we're all drinking that stuff and using it for crops and things like that. So we want to make sure we keep our water right. So it's important to know label. What does that mean? So it means that you need to be a certified aquatic applicator. And I think that goes for every province in Canada, not just Ontario. I think that happens in every province. And you must also make sure that before you apply that you have the appropriate permits and the appropriate approvals in order to spray it. Okay, there's aquatic invasive species regulations, I think, in most provinces where that's how you can use products in and around the water. Okay, so I think that's appropriate, and we would only sell to someone that would have a certified aquatic applicator. I did forget to mention that this product can be purchased through Viceris, which is our distributor. And you can get a hold of them at www.ca, and I'll show that at the end. The active ingredient and mode of action is imazapyr. So groups are important because they're the way that they attack a plant. And this one here happens to attack an enzyme in the plant that is only found in plants. So it is not going to affect humans, right? Because it doesn't attack an enzyme that interacts with a human, okay? And so it's an inhibitor, so it stops the production of the ALS enzyme, and it's been around for quite some time, okay? Habitat Aqua is specifically developed for water overuse, and it, as we talked about, it has 240 grams per liter. So that's how much imazapyr is in the product. It's in a water-based product as well. Again, the rates are 3 liters per hectare to 4.68 liters per hectare. And the great thing about it, yes, that is difficult because Phragmites is spotty, but applicators know how to adjust and calibrate their equipment so that they are using the right amount of active. We want to make sure that we're using the right amount of active for it because it is a big plant, but we also don't want to spray too much and have product dripping into the water. But what is important is, depending on how much you're spraying Roundup, we always talk about trying to minimize impact. You are putting quite a bit less active ingredient into the environment with the use of imazapyr than with glyphosate. And of course, that you'll want to use sorry, AquaSurf surfactant, which is specifically developed. Sorry, I'm just going to take a drink here.
Just 2 minutes, Brad.
Okay. A little bit about ALS Group 2. So the ALS produces amino acids for the plant, and it's important protein synthesis. Okay. So what imazapyr does is it absorbs really quickly into the system of the plant. And just as you saw with Wes, how those gases in the water got pulled down to the root system and back up, that's what imazapyr does. It gets into the system of the plant, down into the rhizomes, and it stops the production of ALS. And that's why imazapyr takes so long but works so well, right? Because without ALS enzyme, the plant cannot survive. And so when you cease the production of it, yes, that has lots of reserves in the rhizomes, but once those stop and they can't start again because they've stopped the production, then that plant is for sure dead. Okay? So it's complete but slow. So you're not going to see results the same year that you spray. You're going to spray, let's say August, September, August, September into October, maybe, depending on how green the plant is, but you're not going to see results until the next year. And so that's important to know. Safe toxology, right? We all don't want to kill, we want to kill the frag, but we don't want to kill other things on the frag. And so we want to make sure that this product is safe for mammals and invertebrates. And this product it does not bioaccumulate. It's got a low toxicity. And we put up here, it's less than 5 grams per kilogram. That doesn't mean anything to anybody, but I think what should mean something to someone is that salt, 3 grams per kilogram, there's a 50% chance that you'll die from that. So in a way, this imazapyr is safer than table salt, okay? Just from a toxicity point of view. I don't want you eating or drinking imazapyr or that much table salt, right? But it just gives you perspective on the toxicity of those products. And another great thing about it is that we saw presentations about this with glyphosate, and imazapyr is really great. So let's say some gets into the water. It will dissipate in about from a half day to a 5-day half-life, right? So a half-life is when half of it is gone from the water, okay? So depending on how sunny it is, half of it is gone after half a day, okay? And there's no restrictions on recreational water use or livestock water. Health Canada has assessed that and said that that's okay. So I think it's important to know that this is a nice, safe product to use. Okay, now a little bit about the watchouts, because it is a non-selective herbicide, right? And it's got some residual to it, right? So if you were to spray imazapyr on the ground, it would stay in the ground, and the half-life there is like 5 months, right? So not the 5 days in the water, but it can stay in the ground for longer, right? Up to 5 months, half-life of 5 months. And what that means is it can be uptake through roots as well as the shoots of other plants. So what's important to know is when you're around vegetation that you are trying to keep, like woodies, potential woodies, trees, desirable foliage, gotta be careful. We would say the drip line. And for people that don't know what the drip line is, so the drip line is the edge of the branches of the trees. And so we would say keep 2 times that distance away from the trees, just to make sure that you're not getting too close to the trees and end up killing the tree, okay? And that's hard to do on a riverbank, right? Because sometimes you don't know where the riverbank is compared to the roots, right? So you just got to be careful in around trees and vegetation. We also don't want to irrigate crops, right? So if it's irrigation, if it's an active irrigation ditch, we don't want you using it in there, right? Some crops are very susceptible to low amounts of imazapyr, and so we have to be very careful. We are careful on avoiding fast-moving water, so you're not taking that water way away, and we don't know what's going to happen with it, right? So we want you to use it on slow-moving water. We want to be careful around water intake pipes, right? So we don't want to apply to water within a 1 kilometer upstream of a water intake unless the water is shut off. So it's just important to read the label. There's a lot more detail in the label. Read the label when you're trying to figure out if it's a good tool for the application that you're trying to use it for. How are you going to apply it? So again, we talked about you're going to apply it to green foliage above water. Yeah, I'm almost done there, Kelly.
Sorry, just
I'm doing good.
Yep, no worries. No.
We don't want to apply it to the water. We want to apply it to green foliage only, and you want to do it to the point of runoff. We don't want it dripping into the water, right? We just want enough that it's going to have good coverage and get uptake. Okay, how are you going to do that? We have put wicking applications on. We do not want you to use gloves or your hands in any way. Got to remember, this is a herbicide, right? And yes, it is safe, but it's still a herbicide. Use a tool. That we put a little picture of the Rittenhouse wicking tool there. We do not want it. Gloves. Okay. Broadcast. You can use ground equipment, watercraft, aerial. This is an odd one because you can use it on dry ground in and around the station area, as well as the application method that you see fit best, or best see fit. Water volumes, 50 liters per hectare is the minimum for aerial only. Everybody else, I'd want you to use 550 liters. Again, you want to do it to run off. You don't want a bunch of it dripping off into the water, but you want to put on as much as possible. Again, this is why we want certified aquatic. They know they can calibrate the equipment to do it in a proper way. You can go back into the Phragmites. To go back into, we only want one application a year. That's all you should need anyways. So what are the key takeaways? Okay, first off, we want to be careful in the use of Habitat Aqua. We want to make sure, right? So that's why we want to make sure that it's a certified, only certified applicators with proper application, proper authorization that can use it. Okay, we want to let you know that it translocates. Right up the green stuff, it's getting sucked into the root system, and it's a slow but sure death. It's safe to mammals, birds, fish, and vertebrates, and you don't have to believe it because I told you, but Health Canada has looked at that and also agreed with that as well. Always read and follow the label. That is the law, right? And so we want you to make sure that you use this properly and in the appropriate way, right? Because you can have there are some watchouts with this product too around desirable vegetation. And so we want to make sure that you use it properly. And again, it's just another tool in the toolbox to help you get what you need done to complete the strategy for the area that you're looking at. So hopefully this has helped. Let's do one last thing here just to kind of let you know they're in 5-liter jugs. So each case does around 4 to 6 hectares, right? You got to add actant. You can get a product from Veseris, which is pestweb.ca. And for some reason, I thought I had taken out that product availability. There's plenty of product available. You can get it anytime you'd like.